name is Winnie Lubeme, and of course today it is the International Day of Education. It is very, very important for us to really take stock, and especially in our country and our education system, just to get to understand what exactly is happening. Schools reopened yesterday. There's a lot, all right, as far as the schools reopening, and of course, the junior high and, all the grade 4 and grade, all those things, all right? So that is what we'll be talking about today, and that is just get to understand what exactly is happening in our education, sector, and what are some of the things that can be done to improve the same. So it's a lot, that we need to cover in this hour. So stick around until the end of the conversation. And as we all know, the previous 844 curriculum, as again we all know, was launched in 1985. And however, the critics were unhappy with the emphasis on rote learning and teacher-centered practices, noting that the graduates of the 844 curriculum were ill-prepared for the workforce. So in 2011, the government appointed a task force to review the 844, and of course a process that eventually led to the competency-based curriculum, that is a 26333 system. Right, so now Kenyans have expressed frustrations with the new curriculum. So the question is, what will it take to streamline the education system in the country? That is what we want to understand on today's conversation. So again, this, in as much as we're here to talk about these things, we also remember it is your show as well. So you want to interact with us and tell us what you feel about the whole education system in the country and what we need to do to streamline the same. Again, feel free to interact with us. And of course, the question that we're asking you today is, what exactly should be done? And this is to ensure the success of the CBC, that is the competency-based curriculum. What exactly should be done to ensure the success of the same? We'll be looking at your feedback in just a moment, but just to set the ball rolling, all right? Schools have reopened, of course, reopened yesterday countrywide for the first time in a normalized school calendar. Hundreds of learners trooped back to school for the first day of the 2023 academic calendar. That was yesterday. However, the influx of numbers is a concern for many schools, with lack of capacity and teachers being cited. Well, NTV's Ngina Kirori has more details on the same.
It's opening day here at Technology Primary School in the county of Murang'a. Learners ready for the first term of the year in a normalized school calendar. However, compared to the past 3 years, this room is filled even more with eager learners.
Grade 6.
A little too packed, according to the head teacher, who says they are stretched beyond capacity.
Tumerealize hata desk za wanafunzi za watoto wawili sasa wanakaa wanne na bado wanaendelea kuja, lakini tunajiandaa, tutaona vile tunaweza kuaccommodate watoto wote kwa sababu hii ni shule ya umma.
The head teacher says each class has roughly 100 students and that some desks have been converted into seats. It is a similar story in schools in the neighboring county of Kirinyaga, where school administrators say they are battling more challenges despite having extra class space, owing to the construction of junior secondary school classrooms.
What we are doing is now we are trying to construct new dormitories, of course, with the limited resources and the laboratories. And in fact, we feel so squeezed.
Fathers have especially been urged to do more in helping curb indiscipline among learners.
We have a lot of problems because the men have no time for their sons. They have no time for their sons. They don't come for academic clinics. They said their spouses. Most of the men will not come for the AGMs. Most of the men will not come when there are discipline cases.
In the county of Nandi, stakeholders have united to sensitize school-going children on the risks of teenage pregnancy.
We are here for some few reasons. We want to remind our kids as they go back to school on the importance of maintaining discipline, because recently we've had cases of strikes. Number two, we want to remind them on the need to take care of themselves to avoid teenage pregnancies.
Leaders from the region have also called on the Teacher Service Commission, TSC, to address teacher numbers following an influx of new pupils. The The deficit of teachers stands at over 100,000, with TSC saying that they plan to recruit 35,000 teachers in January as part of the first phase of the promised teachers recruitment exercise. Ngina Kirori, NTV.
All right, thank you very much, Ngina Kirori, for that. Of course, like we all know, every time the schools reopen, there's a lot that goes on as far as preparing the learners as well to go back to school and all those things. But again, like we said, today is the International Day of Education, and according to UNESCO, 244 million children and youth are out of school, and 771 million adults are illiterate. All right, so what exactly should be done again to improve these numbers and make sure that every child and young person are in school? But the question that we're asking you today is, what should be done to ensure the success of the competency-based curriculum, that is CBC? Again, what exactly should be done to ensure the success of the competency-based curriculum? I can see a number of you have a lot to say, and especially on Facebook. But again, remember, NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, is how you can reach us, or better yet, give us a call. The numbers are down on your screen, and speak to us in terms of what you think should be done to ensure the success of the competency-based curriculum. But just to go through one or two feedback, Edwin Bett on Facebook says, employ enough teachers, build enough classrooms, ensure books are enough. Teachers should be given more roles in advising the government. All right, and then Beatrice Ndungu says, let the kids remain in their schools. They are opening in a week's time. We are all confused. The teachers, the parents, and the learners. We don't know what next. Worst case scenario, we have parents who don't know where to take their kids. Their school selection learners did the exam, which the Ministry of Education confirmed it is not going to be used for placements. Anyway, Mungu mbele. All right. And then someone else says, success and CBC are like heaven and earth. Confusion. So I don't know what my panel thinks about the same. We have Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director, Usawa Agenda, as well as Winnie Chepkemoi, Development and Gender Specialist. And we're also trying to get, a teacher who, again, to just give us his perspective as far as what exactly is happening. So we'll be joining him as soon as we have him online. But Dr. Emmanuel and Winnie, karibuni sana. It's so good to see you this morning. I know people are going to throw stones nikiwaambia Happy New Year, but it's Happy New Year. Hatujaonana this New Year, right? So karibuni sana. And I'm just going to start with the theme for this year, that is the International Day of Education. And it says to invest in people, prioritize education. How can we employ that in our Kenyan context, given what exactly is happening in our education system? Dr. Manyasa.
Thank you, Winnie.
Yeah.
First, let's remember why we have this day.
Yes.
We mark this day to celebrate the role of education in peace and development.
True.
And for this year, 2023 in particular, the UN has dedicated this day to the women and girls of Afghanistan,
yeah,
because of the difficulties that they are finding themselves in with encumbrance to education. Yeah. For us to be able to benefit from education as a society and as individuals, first, that education must be quality, that education must be accessible, and that education must be just. And by just education, I mean that the school system must be able to enable everyone who comes into it to benefit fully from it, regardless of the encumbrances they come into the education system with. So that is the background against which we need to be celebrating this day and asking ourselves, as we want to invest in education, how do we make sure that the investments we make into the education sector do not exacerbate the differences people come into the school system with, but they enable everyone who comes into our education system to come out of it having fully benefited from it, so that they are of value to themselves and to society, and they can contribute to peace and development.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Winnie, do you feel we've made enough investments that Dr. Emmanuel is talking about?
So a happy International Education Day.
Yes.
It's a very interesting time of the year that we are marking this day, and I hope it's giving us an opportunity to reflect on how the education system has evolved for us as a country.
Yeah.
And currently, if you look at what's happening across the world, governments are, and development partners are also coming in to see how do we you know, enable access to quality education at low cost, making it as affordable as possible. But interestingly, as you have asked, it's drawing that balance is quite a challenge. And I have seen, I was reading how now development partners, governments, including that of Kenya, are also very aggressive in mobilizing resources. You've seen, you know, the World Bank coming in, GIZ coming in, local foundations coming in, and I think it's a step in the right direction. But I hope at the end of the day, parents are also not forgotten. The other stakeholders are not forgotten that it's an all-round investment. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And of course, I'm happy that you mentioned, you know, development partners and everybody else is sort of like coming in to make sure that, again, like Dr. Manyasa said, we get quality out of the same, not just offer education because, you know, we need to offer education, but make sure that there's quality at the same time. And Dr. Manyasa, again, given the theme and of course the dedication of the same, again, in the country, we're also experiencing, you know, cases of, you know, violence and banditry and all those things that one way or the other also affect, you know, the delivery of education in certain parts of the country. And of course, this hampers the whole question about quality, you know, in education. So moving beyond, oh, community A is fighting community B, and that is why, you know, all this is happening. Really, what is it that we need to, you know, sort of like focus on to make sure that, yes, in as much as we're talking about quality and ensure that all the learners are in school, because the education ministry says hakuna mtoto anafaa kukaa nyumbani, but then in such cases, you know, they can't go to school because security and all those things.
Most problems that we face in education sector are not necessarily emanating from the education sector itself, so they can't actually be addressed by the Ministry of Education.
True.
For example, when we see cases of banditry in certain parts of this country, it's not that those communities are per se uniquely prone to being in conflict. They have been set up to be in conflict. When the colonialists came here, the first thing they did was to build the railway. Why? Because they were going to use the railway to police the country. Why, 60 plus years after independence, are some parts of this country not policeable? And for as long as you set up regions to be unpoliceable, you have set them up for self-policing and therefore intercommunal violence episodes time from time, because they are trying to police themselves and everyone assert themselves. The regions where we see banditry, they lack infrastructure, they have been left behind in education for a long time, and that in itself is a contributor to the current episodes of violence. So we have set up those communities for that. And because of the fact that we have set them up for that kind of conflict, it has become a vicious cycle. The conflict is hampering education, and the lack of education is generating more conflict and underdevelopment. So it is up to us as a country to decide what do we want to define as Kenya.
Okay.
If there are some less Kenyan and some more Kenyan. If we agree that every part of this country is Kenya, then we should invest sufficiently in each part of this country for it to be peaceful and to enable the children in those areas to access quality education.
Absolutely, and have, you know, sort of a safe environment for them to also access education. All right, tech stock, right? 844, there's also a lot of complaints with critics saying it does not prepare learners for the job market, right? And then now we have the CBC still, you know, we still have a bit of issues here and there as the CBC is concerned, but really, and honestly, now we can't even say let's compare 844 because now we're sort of like transitioning and completely moving away from the whole question about 844 system. So what is it like? What is it that what would you, in your opinion, where would you place the education, the kind of education that we're offering in the country? Where would you place it? What are these gaps?
I think that it's important to still compare 844 with what we are bringing forward, because there are still people stuck in saying we must stay with what we have. Now, true, I have to clarify that we can't compare 844 with CBC.
The CBC.
In the sense that CBC is a curriculum, 844 is a system.
Yes.
Or the system that we are in now is the 2663.
Yes.
That is what is comparable with 844. But we can say what we were doing under 844 was implementing an outcome-based curriculum.
All right.
The outcome-based curriculum says you determine what you want the education system to produce at the end, and then you try to gauge the achievement of each child based on that outcome.
All right.
The CBC says you determine, you focus on the child and allow them achieve what they are able to achieve. That's why that is the difference, that this system is not going to be ranking children. It is going to allow every child to reach their own potential. Not a predetermined level of achievement, the way the outcome-based curriculum expects.
Yeah.
So from where I sit, a shift to CBC is a positive
That's good.
step.
Yeah.
The challenges we have now are that we have not set ourselves up for successful implementation of CBC. And that is what the ministry and all stakeholders need to urgently respond to understand that however good something is, if you do not do it well, it will not turn out well.
Yeah.
We must focus on ensuring that CBC implementation is done well and we succeed. We must succeed with it because the future of many children depend on it and the future of the country depends on it. So my challenge to the stakeholders and to many friends who are still stuck in saying, let us go back to 844, please move on into the new.
We can't go
and
back.
As we move forward, let us agree that we must together at all times figure out how best to implement because we need to succeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, there has been a lot of conversation since last year and sort of like a bit of a year before, you know, all about, yeah, this was rushed, we could have done this, we could have done that, but here we are, 2023, still having the same issues. So then how do we
We never plan as Kenyans, even, and that is why I have been telling people, have asked me, should we delay this for a year or 2 years? If we delayed for a year, we will still go back to slumber and wait for the last 3 months.
Exactly.
And then be in a rush.
We come back.
So it is a bad habit, but we have it as a country. So I am hoping that those responsible understand how serious this is.
Yeah.
And they try to help us move
holding on to the hope. But at the same time, as we hold on to the hope, there has to be action taken, right? To ensure that the success of the same. I'll come back to you on the same. So, and essentially what I'm getting from it, especially what you said, is CBC on paper is really good. But then again, whatever is happening in the, you know, in the education, whatever is happening on ground, we can say it's something totally different. So then when weighing all those things, you know, and especially what is being offered in schools, what is it that you see? Watching from outside, coming in, what is it that you see?
Actually, in the entire context, I think for me, I see a lot of positivity.
Okay.
And there was a recent discussion about Gen Z, which I would say most of them are now at the university level. And you see the aspirations that, you know, most of them are saying, I don't think I want to be employed, I want to build a product. And someone said, actually CBC should have started with this generation.
Okay.
So, and besides that, having a curriculum that is competency-based as compared to the previous knowledge-based system, and seeing how the world is also evolving. I mean, right now people are talking about artificial intelligence, where our students are using a platform to even generate essays and study and so forth. Then it means, you know, we are preparing a generation to, you know, be responsive to how the world is also evolving. And there was also another discussion on how even the workplace is evolving
as
to
well.
being even like interviews to be competency based, not what you know. So in as much as there's challenges, and considering that CBC in my view is a high investment issue, then the challenges are expected, or, you know, the risks are expected, but I think, you know, with the perspective that Dr. has shared, that we have to move, then I think we're in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the optimism.
yeah.
But again, like we said, it's good to be optimistic, but also it's very good for you know, for the whole aspect about practicality of the same.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of parents, and especially, you know, those whose kids or learners are transitioning. They're like, so umetoka from this grade, you're going to this other grade, but then you're still in the same school, still the same teachers. So what difference does that make? What is it that shows me that I have transitioned from this to this? And especially those ones who are joining, you know, junior high and all those things. There's a whole question about infrastructure. Teachers, we do not have enough teachers. Of course, the government said we're going to employ more than 30,000 teachers. We are yet to see that. So I think let's take a break. But when we come back, we'd also want to see then the practicality of the term. What are some of these practical steps? What are some of the key priority areas, you know, that we need to focus on, such that in as much as, yes, we're moving to, you know, the whole question about the CBC doing away completely with the 844, but then how do we make it work so that we avoid some of these frustrations? But again, remember the question that we're asking you, that is, what should be done to ensure the success of the competency-based curriculum? So many of you have a lot to say on the same, so we're going to go through your feedback. But again, like I said, if you want to call in live and contribute to the same, feel free. The numbers are down on your screen. But for now, let's take that break. See you very shortly right here on Your World.
Own your dream home from as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings within the popular and rapidly expanding prime neighborhood of Vipingo, Kilifi. Call us today on 0740 400 215.
Import your dream SUV with Murray Daddy Motors. Just pay a deposit of 1 million shillings and the balance when your vehicle arrives. Murray Daddy Motors. Over 15 years experience in car importation and over 5,000 cars safely delivered.
The proud reputation of Juventus was forever tarnished by the 2006 Calciopoli scandal. So there should be a similar sense of shame for those responsible for the latest scandal that has delivered harsh punishments, not least of all to the team. For Setien, football is not all about winning and losing, as much as it is about how you play the game and staying true to that vision.
You're going to take your oxtail and then you're going to brown it.
welcome back. Glad you're still with us. The show is your world. The International Day of Education is what we are celebrating today, and of course with the theme on to invest in people, prioritize education. Of course, we're just trying to see ways that, again, how our education system is faring on in the country, what are some of the areas that we need to improve on, and of course, given the whole transition to CBC, what is working, what is not, what are some of the key priority areas that, again, the government needs to focus on to ensure the success of the education, in the country. Because according to Business Insider Africa, Kenya ranks 7th in Africa with 55.4 points rated, and of course, the 95th best. This is, country in the world with a 78.7% literacy rate. So then how do we improve these numbers, right? Ensure that we're not only offering education, but quality education at that, and ensuring equity, right, at the end of the day. But we have a question for you, and that is what exactly should be done to ensure the success of CBC right here in the country. A lot of you have a lot to say. We're compiling your feedback, and of course we'll be going through them as we continue with the conversation. But how about we speak to a teacher, get to hear their perspective. And of course we have Mr. Noah Kamare, who's a retired head teacher, joining us via way of phone. It's so good to speak to you this morning, Mr. Noah. 40 years of service, in teaching. I'm sure you have a lot to say, but then again, I can see your time is pretty much constrained. So we're just going to get to hear your experience, teaching the 844 and now, the whole transition towards the CBC. What has been your experience like, and what is it that you can share with us in terms of the gaps that you have identified? Mr. Noah, are you there? I can't hear you. All right, Mr. Noah, if you can hear me this morning, I would really, really love to hear what you have to say about our education system in the country, having served for over 40 years. So, of course, a little bit about, a lot actually, about the 844 and now with the CBC. So what is it that, you can share with us this morning? Alrighty, we seem to have a bit, of trouble getting Mr. Noah. But again, Dr. Emmanuel, let's just start with you. Of course, a lot has been said, but like we said, we need to identify the practical ways that we can make CBC work so that we offer quality education to all the learners across the country. It doesn't matter where you come from. The whole question about the teachers is a very big issue, and not only, the fact that we do not have enough teachers. Majority of them are not well trained as well, for this set curriculum. So what is it that, you have identified some of the gaps, and especially when it comes to human resource, just to make sure that they offer quality education to the learners?
Thank you. In the whole setup of education, the most important actor is the teacher.
Yeah.
We can do without a classroom.
Yeah.
We can still teach, but we can't teach without teachers.
That's true.
That is one. Two, the number of teachers as we move to CBC must increase, because CBC requires that you center on the learner. This teacher requires smaller class size than what they were able to teach under the old system. So that is critical. I appreciate the fact that the government is saying we are hiring 30-something thousand teachers to increase the number of teachers. But I think the government is being a bit economical with the truth. Economical with the truth in the sense that they're not telling us how many of the permanent teachers they're hiring are actually replacements of those who have left the service, either through death, retirement, or just left the service for other duties elsewhere. But also the fact that we are recruiting intern teachers as the majority, and we want to position these intern teachers in junior secondary. That is a big negative.
All right.
Negative in the sense that that is the stage where, in this curriculum as designed, we are supposed to identify the talents of the learner and guide them to the career paths that they will take when they get into senior school.
Okay.
That cannot be left to intern teachers.
All right.
It can't. That is very crucial for the development and implementation of the whole system. We can't leave that to intern teachers. So the government must endeavor right now to get more teachers employed. But more importantly, they must endeavor to get the teachers in the service on board. When CBC was introduced to teachers, it was introduced with a big stick from TSC, and teachers were told, come over this weekend for training or else. And teachers went and sat there and let whoever wanted to talk to them talk. But they learned nothing.
Yeah.
Because at that same point, we were having this political mixed messaging of saying, when we take over power, we shall abolish CBC.
Yeah.
So teachers didn't pay attention to whatever training they were going through, because they believed this thing is interim, is not going to be here.
Yeah.
And many of those who were trained, because they started with grade 1, 2, 3 teachers to train, many of those were very old teachers.
Yeah.
Most of them have left the service. So we actually need to get the teachers currently in service on board. Do away with the stick business.
Yeah.
Return teacher training to the Ministry of Education, because it is the one that has the mandate to train teachers and not TSC. And allow these teachers to go through proper training that will enable them to understand the new content that has been designed for this curriculum, because it's much higher pitched content than what they were used to. So that they can be, first of all, ready to sacrifice, to do everything they need to do to achieve success, but also that their voice must be heard. For a long time, the teacher unions had been killed, and because of that, teachers had no voice. And you know, because the nature of mankind is that when you are cornered, you rebel. Teachers rebelled by trying to cause parents as much pain as they could, so that parents can speak on their behalf.
Okay.
That is basically what has been going on with the fiasco in the implementation, that teachers were rebelling the harassment they were getting from the employer, and the fact that their unions could no longer speak for them. They created a way of forcing parents to speak for them by causing parents pain. We can actually close those gaps and get parents and teachers and the government to work together to make sure that there is better implementation of this curriculum, because we need it implemented better.
Absolutely. I mean, because now if we're having this for the long term, then, you know, we better get things right as soon as now. All right. How about we get this from a teacher's perspective? And I hope that we have Noah on the line. So Mr. Noah Kamare, who's a retired head teacher, again, 40 years of service. It's good to speak with you this morning. I really hope that we can get you. Your experience, first of all, what is it like being a teacher in this country, and how would you grade our education system based on what you've seen in your years of service?
Well, actually, in Kenya, it is quite difficult for a teacher because the payment is very low, and some of these particular things to use in teaching are deficient. And there are a lot of politics in our education system, and we really enjoy actually teaching. Yes.
All right. When you say there's a lot of politics, what exactly do you mean?
I mean, when something is suggested, like now employment of teachers, a lot of politics is played in it. And we really get whatever we require in terms of employing enough teachers. Yeah.
All right. And in your years of service, and I'm just going to ask this, especially when it comes to the question about the CBC, because you, again, experienced both the 844 and now, you know, a bit of the CBC, that is before you retired. As a teacher and on ground in schools, especially in public schools, could you paint that picture for us?
The CBC teacher is well placed. If all the apparatuses and the teaching materials were availed, this is a good system of education because it is centering on the learner and it is centered on mastery of skills, knowledge and ideas.
All right.
As opposed to the other 844, whereby we had some kind of skills at first, and finally we ended up basing our teaching on passing examinations. Yes.
Okay, but then the practicality of the same. Paint a picture for us in your school. The whole question about delivering, CBC and ensuring that all the learners get enough attention from the teachers. Paint that picture for us, especially in your school. What exactly happened? How was it like?
That picture is a messy one. In that the number of children in a class are not 40 to one teacher, but it is almost 100 to one teacher.
Yeah.
So the delivery will not be realized fully. And again, there are too many records to be kept in CBC as opposed to when we were in 844, where we were keeping teams of work, lesson planning, record of work, and that was all. But this time we have so many things actually to keep. I sympathize with those teachers. I sympathize with those teachers now because the whole...
Sorry, Mr. No, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still there.
Okay,
I'm saying the current teacher is laden with a lot of records to keep for one teacher. And also there are a lot of children maybe to cater for. And as you are talking about the millions of children who are out of school, actually the system demoralizes these children from continuing. And we can also have another problem, especially when we look at the political side of it. Remember, somebody called Mr. Sosion, the NAT secretary, actually took up the arms to fight with the government on implementation of CBC, which was actually political oriented. And two, remember it was introduced in 2017 December, and there was no much public participation. So many bodies were left out in participating on the curriculum design of this CBC. Only the KICD took over the mantle, and you can see what we have. Remember, ICT is still a problem. Teachers were not trained. A few who had just got their own training are the ones who propelled everything.
Okay.
Now you can remember, even now, the coverage of this network does not cover the whole of Kenya. You can imagine where I am now. I have fumbled a bit, and I've even become late because of network coverage. Yes.
Yeah. So then, based on your experience, what you have seen in schools and especially in public schools, so then what will be your advice? What will it take for the CBC to work?
My advice is that the government should actually provide the infrastructure, enough personnel, train people on ICT, sensitize parents fully, and ensure that there is a peaceful coexistence between the education system and the stakeholders.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Noah. We really hoped to have seen you. But then again, like you said, there's a bit of an issue with connection. But thank you, nevertheless, for really taking your time and speaking with us this morning, sharing your experience as a teacher who's been in service for over 40 years and just, painting that picture really for us as, what exactly is happening in public schools. Because we might sit here and talk about all those things, but, we might not know what exactly is happening. So, asante sana, Mr. Noah Kamarei. Retired head teacher, again joining us via phone this morning, and a lot that again Mr. Noah has talked about. So Winnie, I just want to get your input on the same in terms of, he says you need to do this, make sure that there are enough teachers, the infrastructure is in place as well, peaceful coexistence, and of course that harmony between what Dr. Emmanuel also talked about earlier on. it's very good to say those things, but then making sure that this happens, what will it take? Very quickly.
So it's really really good to hear from a teacher that has that length of experience.
Yeah.
And I must say, and just reflecting on his sharing, you know, calling for more teacher recruitment, infrastructure, so as to ensure that the outcomes or the aspirations of CBC are achieved. And I'm just thinking, us as a country are also operating in a very tight fiscal space. And if you look at what the education sector currently has in the current budget, 2022-2023, is about 25% of the budget, and that has to spread across, you know, the entire sector. And so, and I think the approach that the current government has then taken, you know, to mobilize resources as much as possible. And I've seen commentaries of stakeholders saying that, well, this investment is focusing on the junior education and we are totally ignoring higher education. But I think, you know, well, and Dr. had mentioned about open schools. And in other countries, that has worked for higher learning, where you have open universities. The also issue of digital literacy and how can you use technology to still, you know, to enhance the outreach and really the outcomes of CBC. So I think as we make, you know, all those prayers, the reality is also, as us as a country, we're struggling financially. But I'm also glad, and I'll probably repeat that, you know, I've seen development partners now coming in, the World Bank, you know, the development corporations in the country really coming in and paying attention to it, which I think it's with time, it's gradually we will be in a good place.
Absolutely. And of course, Dr. Emmanuel, I'd also want you to sort of like comment a little bit on what you know, Mr. Noah had to say, and I'll also just focus on then the key priority areas. We talked about teachers, which is very, very important to ensure that we have enough trained, well-trained teachers for the same. But before that, very quickly, can we take a look at some of your feedback as far as the question that we're asking you today, and that is what exactly should be done just to ensure the success of the competency-based curriculum. So, Sikiptum says, success and CBC are like heaven and earth, confusion. And we talked about it a little bit earlier on. And then Mutua Cyrus says, CBC is the best education system in this country will ever have if major issues are taken with the weight it deserves. For example, resources are availed, monitoring and evaluation of its implementation right from the class, as well as continuous workshop for teachers. All right. And then Fulgens Obanda says, it needs total overhaul. The components of syllabus is a mess. How can you waste learners' time teaching them how to make things they were used in 17th century when we are in the technological era? All right, okay. And then someone else says, this is Charles Rotich, says, let's go to the original 7423, which was a tested and tried system. All right. Okay, Dr. Emmanuel.
First, I have to admit that the government may not be able to put much more money into the sector.
Yeah, they said
but that does not mean that the money that is in the sector cannot be used better.
Sure.
That is something that we need to be looking at and asking ourselves. There are so many things that we need to do with money.
Yeah.
What are the priorities? How do we make sure there is efficiency in the utilization of what we have? And from where I sit, that is something that is critical right now, to create accountability in the education sector for all the resources going into this sector. One of the things that we must do is to allow the structures in the sector as envisaged to function. We recall we had the Auditor General flagging that we had a CS who had spent 10 million shillings walking around the country distributing desks. And you ask yourself, how many more desks were spent on the road? That would actually have been in classrooms if we allowed the field officers to do the inspection, which is what they are deployed in the field to do. So if we can get the top leadership of the ministry to sit in Jogoo House and look at the returns from the field consistently and make changes as needed, we can actually be able to utilize the resources more efficiently. That is one. Two, we have the issue of bursary schemes in this country. A lot of money is going into the bursary, and it's important to talk about this because we are looking at a just education as we celebrate this day.
That day, yeah.
We have to look at the amounts of money going into the bursary schemes and see that there is so much money from domestic philanthropists, Equity Bank, Coop Bank, M-Pesa, and all the others. Can we put all these resources, plus what the national government is putting in this sector, plus what we have now as ward reps bursary, as MPs bursary, as whatever, can we put all of them into one basket?
Okay.
Then create structures that go down up to the ward and have the ward structure identify the beneficiaries because they know that area. And create a level of transparency in how this money is actually allocated to the children who need, with their names made public, the schools that they attend made public, so we don't have stories like what we're hearing in Bungoma, claims that someone was paying bursaries for fictitious students. If we can create this level of transparency and accountability in the sector, I think that there is almost sufficient resources in that sector to enable all our children access a quality education. That is urgent. We have envisaged in the Basic Education Act a National Education Board that we don't want to have. I don't understand why we have never had it. It will be the focal point that will right now be troubleshooting all the problems that we encounter in the implementation of the CBC. We have to accept this is a new system. All of us are on a learning journey. No one has implemented it before in this country. So at every new level, we shall encounter new problems. We need a structure that will be charged with troubleshooting all the problems that emerge until the first cohort that is in grade 7 now graduates from university, because there will be new challenges as we go along. That can be done, and that needs to be done. It doesn't need anything to be changed in the law, because the law envisages the existence of a National Education Board that advises the CS. Again, reforms within the ministries to ensure that what we call the curriculum support system works, because we have curriculum support officers in the field, but they are not budgeted for to travel into schools and just check on what is happening and support teachers. So why are they there if we don't facilitate them to do their job? And they don't need so much money to be able to do their job. They just need transport to visit schools. Can we make that structure work so that it supports teachers in the field, rather than have it on paper, have individuals earning salaries that don't add value to the teaching and learning that we need to be engaging in.
Okay. All right. We literally have 3 minutes to end the conversation. Time flies. But Winnie, I'd also want to hear your view, and this is as far as it's good that we have development partners and private entities also coming in to sort of like support the government. Again, Dr. Emmanuel talked about the whole question about transparency and accountability as well. Sort of like ring fence, you know, this funds, just to make sure that it is directed to and goes to the right place where it is supposed to, and we can also have some, you know, level of accountability on the same. But as we all know, in this country, of course, a lot of people will be like, hizo pesa zitaekwa hapo, and we know very well they will not go to the intended, you know, audiences and all that. So then when it comes to the whole question about accountability, transparency, and making sure that whoever is responsible for whatever, you know, can be accountable, and, you know, we, the public, can also hold them accountable and say, listen, you are tasked to do this, but you have not delivered. So what is sort of, I don't know whether to call them penalties, but just ways that we can make sure that, you know, we really, our accountability is really, really strengthened in the country.
Yeah, that's an interesting aspect of it, perspective. But there's also, one of the commentators has mentioned monitoring and evaluation system that not just looks at delivery of the entire curriculum, but also how resources are utilized.
Yeah.
Outcomes of the impact, the outcomes of those resources. So I think that still goes back to the ministry, and also taking stock of the Auditor General's reports and recommendations, and have perhaps take stock of that and how it's implemented, and if we have a monitoring and evaluation system that is public, that is accessible to the public. Even as citizens, you're able to go through it and say, hey, were the resources allocated to this, But as you had mentioned that Kenya is, Kenya is Kenya, and, the past keeps haunting us.
Yeah.
I believe that, how things are going right now and the reforms that are going are able to also look into that and have, if it's penalties, if it's suspensions, if it's, punishments, then, but resources put into the education sector and from a development perspective are really critical.
Yeah.
Because education is what you want someone to, and looking even at historical research, is what evolved us from a certain way of doing things.
That's true.
We're able to be, responsive to even the challenges in the society. You're able to, even as a citizen, think better, behave better, and so forth. So we must really, hold it with the highest, be humane with the sector.
Yeah. Accountability on ourselves as well.
Yes.
As individuals. Okay, we're literally being chased out of the studio. That team, the task force that again was set up, and of course they actually gave a bit of their recommendations. And one of the things, and Dr. Emmanuel actually contributed to this, was the whole question about uniforms change, so that at least so that people really see a bit of a difference, as far as transition is concerned. But really, they have until March to again submit like a full and final report. So Dr. Emmanuel, and I'll take this as your parting shot as well as Winnie. What is it that you expect to hear and to see from the report? Literally 10 seconds for each.
Several things. One, I want to see junior school set up as a distinct school.
Yes.
It is envisaged to be a distinct school. It has to be distinct away from primary and away from secondary as we know it, or senior secondary.
Yeah.
Two, I want to see the structure set up in the Ministry of Education, clearly defined roles. We want to see them perform those roles clearly. Finally, we have a big issue of exams that have caused a lot of discussions now.
Yeah.
Exam cheating is basically robbery of dreams of very many Kenyan children who have worked so hard to try and achieve certain ends, and someone else sleeps and gets the results, and it is harmful for the country. So this must be addressed.
Absolutely.
Let us know the truth, and if there are people culpable, they must, for once, take responsibility.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Emmanuel. We need literally 8 seconds. What do you expect to see?
As for me, is really a practical and structured way of, if it's, that answers and takes stock of all the questions that we have. If it's on the curriculum, if it's on the teachers, if it's on the infrastructure, and, if it's a system in place, because I think most of the issues that have been raised are really systemic.
Yeah.
So if they can, I hope there will be very good practical recommendations for the government to, that to really outline what, so that to see the success of the entire value chain is a,
Absolutely, as CBC is a product in itself. All right, thank you very much to both of you, Winnie Chepkemoi, Development and Gender Specialist, as well as Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director at Usawa Agenda. One more comment, Anthony Wambugu has sent a whole paragraph, but just literally 2 seconds, all right? Says, stop developing the less important infrastructure. We are a developing country, therefore, society must be first to develop. It should be important to act on education. Still, our primary schools lack laboratories, IT, organized sports, etc., like public primary schools should be better than our private schools, and that's a gap that is supposed to be filled, and of course continues on and on and on, but we have to end it here. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Thank you so much for your contribution. The conversation again continues online on our social media platforms, as well as our YouTube channel, that is NTV Kenya. But for now, have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. But for now, happy International Day of Education. Goodbye.